We have audio, we have video. This is episode 5 of Hey Dad, it's Neptune.
Please be advised, the main theme of this podcast is death of a father. This topic will be approached with humour. You're in safe hands. I'm a professional.
So, hey Dad, great to have you back. Appreciate you making the time. Always great to see you. Now, not too much praise, of course, because I'm also here. Daisy's also here. We're both busy. We have lives, all right? So, a little bit of praise, but not too much, as always. Yeah? How's your week been? Nothing to say? Really? Wow. Nothing to say, Daisy. Can you believe it? She can't believe it. She can't believe it. You know what I mean? Are you silent or have you been silenced? Nothing to say once more. I just think maybe you should appreciate the listeners of the podcast, Dad. Maybe say a little something, contribute a little something, just like be present. Thoughts? Can't believe it. Can't believe it, Dad. Just out here, just trying to make a podcast. About you. It's about you, Dad. You'd think maybe you want to clock in, put on the apron, name tag, hairnet, clock in. Can't believe it. Pretty disappointing, but nonetheless, we're going to soldier on. We're going to soldier on. Quick explanation. I wasn't here last week. No episode last week. I was sick with illness. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Yeah, all my fans, they know what's up. Yeah, big fan of illness around here. I don't mean to brag, Dad, but my immune system is pretty sensitive. So sensitive. Oh. Okay, I don't want to do that bit. Gross. Dad, how'd you feel about that bit? Yeah, I gotta stop. But my immune system is sensitive. I'm not gonna do the bit. I'm not gonna. So sensitive. So it's pretty sensitive. And I did, maybe just go a little bit hard for my birthday. Now, definitionally speaking, someone might be thinking, "Oh my God, rager, bender, you're going really hard." No, no, no. In my case, going a bit hard for my birthday is the fact that I got 2 not great sleeps before I went to Melbourne on the Friday, did the gig on the Friday, was talking for so long into the wee hours of the morning with my good friend Lou Sebiel, who I was staying at their house, of course. And then, we had to get up a little early-ish the next day because we were going to go for brunch, right? And then I did my gig that night, and then they had to get up a little early-ish the next day for a flight. So I did kind of get 2 more not great sleeps. So already had 2 not great sleeps in the chamber, in the bank, and then 2 more not great sleeps. And as mentioned, my immune system is sensitive. So sensitive, And so 4 not great sleeps in a row, I knew it was coming. When I got back on the Sunday and I was tired and I could feel it in my body, I could feel a little tickle in the old throaty do. Yeah, a little tickle, little runny nose situation. And I tried to catch up on the sleep, didn't really happen. And then, ayo, sickness, illness, mystery, general illness. Something about my immune system, Dad, is that it goes like this. Oh, you think it's funny? You think it's funny to not sleep? You think it's funny to not get adequate sleep? You think it's a funny joke? A little ha-ha joke? Comedian over here always making a joke about everything. You think it's funny? You think it's funny? Illness. Illness. So that's great. Love that. Loves to send me little warning shots. And I know better. I've been in this body for 33 years, not to brag. Ow. But I have been in this body for 33 years. And you would assume, you would make an educated guess that I would maybe understand this reality and try to respect my body. That's what you might assume. It's what you might think, Dad. But the thing is, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. Yeah? Because even though I know this about myself, and it happens every single time that I try to play with my body, try and make a little jokey joke at my own expense, try and push my own limits, I still do it. I forget. Maybe I forget a little bit. Maybe I'm just trying to cram things in. I'm like, oh, it's fine. I got nothing on next week. I can take it easy. I can rest. So that's what I did. I had a really good birthday though. It was really good, Dad. Let me recount. Okay, little Neptune Henriksen story time for you. Settle in. Yeah, get a little hot chocolate and a cookie, Dad. Get 3 cookies. Get 5. Live a little. Live large. You know what I mean? Get your cookies and your hot chocolate and sit down and listen to this story. Okay. As mentioned, on the Friday, I go up to Melbourne. I have a gig Friday night. It goes well. It goes great. I did a bunch of new material, which I'm probably going to put into next year's comedy show, which I'm still trying to work out like where I can afford to tour it to, because I don't have any money right now. Not to brag, but my account is $37 overdrawn, and my other account is $2,000 overdrawn. Yes. And I'm spending my time doing this podcast, which is making me no money. You got it right. Thanks so much. Really appreciate that. So fun. So fun. Yeah. I spend several hours recording it and more time editing it. And then I add the captions. It takes a very long time and I'm making zero money. Smart, business minded person. That's me, Dad. That's me. Yeah. However, the gig was paid. Ching ching. Ooh, cha-ching. Don't say ching ching. That feels a bit racial, feels a bit imperial. Don't love that. Okay, so cha-ching, money, 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 money. Must be funny in the rich man's world. But I'm not a singer, Dad. I am a performer of other arts. For example, comedy, storytelling, theater, etc. So I have this gig. I do a stand-up set. I do new stuff. It goes well. It's a sex worker gig, so it's my people. You know what I mean? So I'm doing a few little jokes about sex work and stuff as well, throwing that in, doing stuff about gender. You know me. And goes well. Love that. See my friend Lou Sebiel afterwards. We're talking at their place. So great to catch up. You know what I mean? Friendship. Friendship. Yes. And then the next day, brunch. Love it. At this really nice place. Really good brunch. I had these like, what are they called? Fritters. They were really good. I haven't had fritters for a really long time. I feel like they're one of those like fiddly things I don't like to make. Dad, do you like to make fiddly things? I know you don't. Don't know why I'm asking you. This is a man who made pancakes once and they were just water and flour. I remember that, Dad. You think I didn't remember that? I remember that. They were just water and flour. I doused them in maple syrup and they were so disgusting. They were so Dad, come on. Just water and flour? I probably shouldn't come for you too much. I'm probably being like kind of fucked up right now because you did grow up in apartheid South Africa. So I can't, maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the resources were like. I don't know what it was like. Dad, what was it like? Share with the podcast. Yikes. Okay, really coming for you. But I will say, okay, we'll put the pancakes aside because maybe that's just you being like, this is what I had to eat as a kid. I think it's fine, But I do remember you massively undercooking pasta, just like regular spiral pasta, undercooking it to such an extent that I feel like it was barely even wet. Like it was barely even fully wet. It was like you stirred it in the boiling water 3 or 4 times and then drained it. That's not great. I feel like you can be someone who makes some slightly whack things because that was all you had growing up. But I feel like maybe just read the packet of the pasta. It tells you how long to cook it for. They generally recommend like 7 or 8 minutes. It was hard, Dad. It was hard. Not great. All right. So I know you don't have cooking skills. I know that you're someone who's just like, it's sustenance. And the thing is, I'm not like a fancy person. I'm not someone who like goes out of my way to have nice food, but I do really like when I have nice food. That's the thing. I am very much like, ugh, just gotta eat. Just gotta eat, I kind of despise it 9 times out of 10. Don't love it. But also, when I go somewhere and the food is nice, I'm like, oh, do I want to do that for myself? No. I batch make my coffee, Dad. I genuinely can't stand having to cook food. It's like I try and make it fun. I try and take a podcast into the kitchen with me, put my little thingies in so I can focus, so I can hear it. I can focus on just the sound of the podcast. And I try and just like enjoy the podcast and just like enjoy the process and just trust the process and not be so concerned with the end result and needing to eat food. But I also do just like batch cook everything because then I just have food. I just want to have food. I don't want to have to do stuff. And that's the thing. I had food because of this method. I had food. So when I was sick that whole week, I just could go and I had like a bunch of rice I'd made, a bunch of curry I'd made. What else did I have? I had some quiche that I had bought from the Aldi. that I'd also, because that's the thing, I won't bother like making a quiche, but if I can get one that I just put in the oven, and then I can just divide it up into pieces, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'll have that. I'm getting off track. The point is, I had a very nice birthday brunch that was food that I would not bother to cook myself. I just wouldn't bother. Wouldn't bother. Thumbs down. Don't care. Um, but very nice brunch. And then we were just kind of hanging out, chatting, catching up, having a good time. I was preparing for my gig that night. I was preparing. I was getting in the zone. I was getting to know my script. Because it was getting Auslan interpreted, so I wanted to try and like stay on script. But then when I got there, the interpreter was like, "Oh, you can go off script. That's okay." And I was like, "Oh, right, whatever. It's fine. It's all good. It's all good." And did the gig. It went really well. I did some like improvised stuff, which also really went well, which was nice, very exciting, very good, very exciting. Also, because it was a sex workers lineup show, they got me on stage for my spot, and one of the other performers was like, "Oh, why don't I slap you with my tits?" And I was like, "Sure." So that was fun. That was really fun. I've never actually been slapped with tits before. I feel kind of neutral about tits. Dad, do you like tits? Answer on the podcast for real. I don't know if you like tits. I've never really thought about this. I've actually never whether or not my father is like a breast guy. We're really going off the rails this time, Dad, aren't we? We're doing something really special today. Yeah, I've never considered whether or not you're a breast guy. This is new thoughts that I'm having right now that I'm having to process live on the air. I is it racist to be like, well, you are from Africa. Maybe you're kind of an ass guy. Is that racist to me? Am I being racist right now? Am I doing one times racism? I do worry I'm being a bit racist. Don't worry, I can say about that. I do think, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're like a nothing guy. Maybe you're asexual. Dad, are you asexual? I don't remember you ever like complimenting my mother about her appearance. Like I don't remember you ever being like, "Ooh, she looks sexy in that dress." You know? I don't remember any inclination of you being like, because I feel like when a guy is a breast guy or like a bum guy or when he's, a personality guy. Yeah, me, I'm a personality guy. Whatever. I'm not. I'm honestly, I'm a vibe guy. If you want to know, Dad, I'm a vibe guy. I'm there for the vibe. I'm there for like, look, I've recently realized this. My sexuality is very situational. I'm up for kind of whatever, um, type wise. Like I do kind of have a type. I have a type on paper. I have a type on paper that if you show me a still image, I'm like, that's attractive, that's sexy. And the type is basically just Ben Schwartz, I'm not going to lie. But the type is basically like twink, curly brown hair, glasses, bisexual, does improv. You know exactly what I'm saying. I'm describing Ben Schwartz. You know what I mean? That's the vibe. That's the vibe. But yeah, I'm not going to lie. You put like a kind of gangly brown-haired curly brown-haired boy in front of me. You think I'm going to be immune to that, Dad? I'm not. I'm not. All right. But at the same time, I'm also kind of into vibes. As discussed, new crush on Will Neff. Not traditionally my type, but because I'm on testosterone, it's just anyone. It's just anyone and anything, anytime. It's truly teenage boy horniness. Like I was this horny as a teenager when I was a teenager, but I was so scared of sex and intimacy, and I was so scared. What I was scared of was not the sex. I was not scared of like, um, I don't know, doing something wrong or it being painful or me hurting the other person. I was scared of someone seeing a side of me that I was still working out. I was scared of someone seeing something that was like true about me and like clocking me and like perceiving me in a time where I was like vulnerable and unsure. And it felt too intimate to like show this side of myself while I'm still like working out who I am. Like I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready to be like perceived in that kind of a way. Um, and so I didn't have sex till I was 20. What do you have to say about it? We're getting real deep in this. All right, we're getting hello, real deep. Um, I'm not. We're not gonna. We're gonna leave that there. Okay. The point of the matter is, I feel like I have a type on paper. I do have a type in terms of if you show me a still image of like a twinkish, kind of timidish looking, but like kind of like timid in the sense of like not the kind of person that would make the first move, but the kind of person that would be enthusiastic once the move has been made. You know what I'm talking about, Dad. You know what I'm talking about. Right? So you show me a kind of like timid, like twinkish, brown curly hair, wearing like a sort of a t-shirt and overshirt situation. You know what I mean? Like that's you show me that and you say or like a t-shirt overalls maybe, hello, or just the overshirt kind of situation. Maybe a cute hoodie, you know? You show me that and you say, "Are you attracted to this?" The answer is yes. The answer is yes. That person has only down to go. Like that vibe, that energy in a still image, it's their fight to lose. If that person like says or does things that turn me off, then we're done. We're done here. We're out. You know what I mean? But that person is starting from like a higher position than sort of anyone else. However, Dad, however, this is the caveat, okay? Because most people, if we get talking and the vibe is right, I'm into it. It doesn't really matter if they're like slim or big, if they're short or tall, if they have like any kind of hair, you know, face type, body type, dress sense, tattoos, no tattoos, glasses, no glasses, accessories. Like none of that matters if the vibe is right. And if I'm like out, I'm having a good time, I'm with my friend Lucebiel, or I'm just like on my own out there on the prowl, you know what I mean? Then it's kind of anyone. I'm up for anything as long as the vibe is right and we're chatting and the vibe is right. You know, I feel like there are some people that they're so specific with their type that it's kind of nice. It's kind of comforting to be like, you know what you like. If you see that person, you're into it. Me, anything, 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 Dad. Gender, regardless. Like it's not. This is not even a gender thing at this point. It's just. It's like, are the vibes right? Are the vibes right? And then it's just kind of like, do we have that kind of flirty energy? Do we have that kind of compatibility? Is it a nice sense of humor? Is it a nice kind of, do I feel kind of at ease around this person? It's stuff like that. And then it's like, am I up for it right now? You know what I mean? Are we going back to my place? Are we going just to the toilets? You know what I mean? We don't have time to waste. All right, let's strike while the iron's hot. Yeah, to the toilets right now. Get your clothes off. Let's do it. Let's make this happen. I do think that there's a concept that is like fatherless behavior, like being a slut is like fatherless behavior, which I think is so funny. Because obviously my dad's dead, case in point. But also, I never really had a dad. Like, you weren't there, Dad. We have to be honest on the podcast. I'm not going to butter you up and sugarcoat things and act like you were a good guy. Okay? You might have had good intentions. You might have wanted to be a good parental figure. You might have wanted to show up. Your heart might have been in the right place. You might have had good thoughts internally. But if you're not vocalizing that, if the actions aren't coming along with that, if you're not showing up, then you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I would say that I never really had a dad personally because you were basically like, in terms of what you were fulfilling, your role in the house that you were fulfilling, you were maybe an uncle. You were maybe an uncle that like lived with us in the sense that like, yeah, you were contributing financially to the house and like you would occasionally spend time with me or my sibling or us as like a family. But like those things happened so infrequently that it was as though you were like an uncle or a granddad more than like a father. Like there are people that I have spoken to and they spent time with their dad like every other day or on the weekends they do stuff with their dad, like just them and their dad, like most weekends. And it's like, that didn't happen with you, Dad. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know. I didn't know any better. I didn't know any different. I had no friends, really, to kind of, like, see how they were with their dads. I had no real examples to kind of contradict what was going on. So I thought it was normal. And then when I grew up and I saw people with their dads, I saw their dads, like, doing things. Like, there was someone that I dated who was also a performer, and that person's dad had, like, a box of flyers and posters and things of this person's performances that they had done. Like, why did you never collect any flyers and posters of my performances, Dad? Like, of my shows that I wrote and directed and was in and toured and financed and all that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, yeah, I was pretty reluctant to tell you about that, tell my mother about that, because neither of you were very supportive of anything I wanted to do. And yeah, I wouldn't really tell you about, like, the shows I was doing and the tours I was going on and stuff like that. I would just kind of brush it off and not really mention it. But that's because of how you taught me to treat you. And it's like the same thing with my mother. Like, she would complain and throw her hissy fits and everything, and you would throw hissy fits too. Like, this is not, I'm not trying to say that she's a woman and she's crazy. We're gonna be crazy. I'm just talking about the fact that, like, emotional immaturity that both of you possessed, right? And she would throw hissy fits about, like, why don't you want me to come to your shows? And it's like, I would tell her a lie, which is that I care the most about her opinion. So I just want to make sure that I'm good before she sees me perform, which wasn't the truth. The truth was that she was so critical of everything I'd ever done that I just felt like I couldn't be anything other than exceptional. A really good example of this was that I wanted to learn violin as a teenager. I did it for 3 years, which I think is not bad as a kid. You know, so many shifting and changing phases to go through. And she would support me on paper in the sense that she would be like, she bought the violin and she paid for the lessons. And, like, that's good, sure. But she never made me feel like I could practice violin while she was in the house, because I could feel her judgment. I could feel the idea that I should be naturally good at things from the beginning, and she would be judging me. That's how it felt. And this is the thing, it's like, you might sit here, Dad, and be like, well, I wanted to be a good father. I provided for you. I had a job and I made money and I tried my best to spend time with you. And it's like, well, clearly your best wasn't enough, Dad, because I am a kid. I have no understanding of the world. I have no understanding of, like, what it is to be a person. And it's up to you to facilitate my childhood so that I don't have to, as an adult, try to relive and recalibrate those experiences and re-regulate my nervous system and, like, relearn how to be a person because I never learnt in the first place. Because you weren't there, Dad. You weren't there. Even if you were there, you were away. You know what? To quote Ben Folds 5, I believe, to quote Ben Folds 5, you were away even when you were here. And that song is about his dad. And I think you should listen to it. And I feel like you get it. I think if you listen to that song, Dad, we could repair our relationship, actually. I think we still got time. I think we can do it. I think we can make it happen. But yes, this is to say that I don't really feel like I ever really had a dad or a father in any kind of meaningful way. Like, I would have never gone to you for advice. I would have never gone to you for help. I let go of the idea that I should try and make you proud a very long time ago, because you were literally just some guy. And it's like, in death, I find myself seeing you a bit more clearly. Sure, sure. I find myself seeing parts of you and things about you. I even, if we're getting a bit serious on the podcast, Dad, because we haven't been serious before, if we're getting a bit real on the podcast, Dad, I find myself realizing that the revenge that I wanted in my darkest times, when I was the most angry with you, is the revenge I got. And it didn't really fix anything. Like, the revenge that I wanted for you in my darkest times was for you to be lonely and, like, feel unloved and feel unseen and have to kind of fend for yourself and deal with the, you know, repercussions of your actions, which is what I got. I saw photos of the place where you were living the place that you died in, where you had a heart attack because of many health issues. So clearly you weren't taking care of yourself. I saw the place that you were living in. It was a complete wreck, Dad. You clearly weren't tidying up. You clearly hadn't tidied up, cleaned up anything in more than a year. It was a really difficult thing to look at. And I know that. I know where that comes from. I know that that is such a deep, dark pit of depression that you must have been in for such a long time. And I can see from those photos, I can see from your death certificate and all the things that you were dealing with your physical health, that your mental health was also in a really, really bad place. And I could see from pictures of the kitchen, there was like cans of soup, you know, cans of like big and chunky men's soup or whatever it's called. You know what I mean? Where you're clearly not like cooking for yourself. You're clearly not like, but you're also not like going out and eating food. You're not like socializing with people out and about. You probably weren't playing rugby anymore. I'm sure that was one of the big ways that you socialized while sober. I wonder if you were even going out and drinking. I don't know. I don't know, Dad. But I remember seeing those pictures and knowing that I'd gotten my revenge, that you had ended your life, that you had been existing for a time in a space that was incredibly sad, incredibly isolated, that you would have felt a loneliness so deep and thick and all encompassing that it would have sunk you down into the mattress every day and made getting up an incredibly difficult task. I know that because I see that in the pictures, and I know you because I am you and I've been there. And I wanted in my darkest moments for you to suffer, and you did. And I got my revenge. But it didn't fix anything. It didn't feel good like I wanted it to feel. It didn't feel justified and like I got one over on you and I won in the end. And I got what I wanted. It felt horrible and sad. It was something that only humanized you further to me and only made me realize that you had tried in your own way and you'd gotten in your own way a lot, and you probably should have tried harder, and you probably should have like stepped up way more, but you did try. And it's kind of sad to think that your best wasn't really good enough. It is kind of sad, but that is the reality of the situation. Maybe I should have tried a little harder, which makes me kind of angry because it wasn't my job to try harder. It was your job to try harder, Dad. And the sad thing is that we exist in a world that because you are the father, you are the dad, there are so many people that would coddle you, that wouldn't even know you, that would hear me saying that you should have done more as the parent, and they would make excuses for you. And they would give you all of these graces and all of these excuses and a long, long rope, and try and implore to me and try and explain to me and try and justify in a million different ways that you actually did all right. Because hey, he still went to work and he still provided for the family, and it's not a dad's job to do all this emotional crap. But none of that justification changes the fact that you were the grown up and I was the child, and you were the one that didn't want to spend time with me. You were the one that didn't want to try and relate to me on my level. You were the one that pushed me out first. You were the one that pushed me away first. And then it's surprised Pikachu when I don't want a relationship with you as an adult. It's we couldn't believe it. We can't believe it. What's going on? When I don't want to share with you, oh yeah, I'm doing this show. I'm doing this thing. I'm going this place. When I'm catching up with you and it's just like I'm just clocking in. I'm just clocking in to do my 1 hour meeting up with my dad twice a year. It's obligation. It's nothing real. People who have good relationships as like parent and child, it's not an obligation that they're fulfilling. They genuinely know each other and they care about each other. So it's not. How is it surprising that I would never come to you for advice? How is it surprising that I'd never tell you about my shows? And then I'm seeing these people with their dads, and like I said, this person, their dad had like a box of flyers and posters of shows that this person had done. Shows at local theaters, small festivals, all kinds of things. I met someone else who was a stand-up comedian, and his dad had got one of those like custom framed things for like his son's recent show, Edinburgh Fringe show that he toured around, obviously done Edinburgh Fringe, but also other festivals, and had gotten like a poster and a flyer from that run and gotten them like custom framed in this way and gotten like the blurb from the program and put that in, and it was like this beautiful thing that he'd gone and paid for his son. And it's like those are big signs of caring, of like showing up. And I don't remember you ever doing anything like that, Dad. I don't remember ever you doing something like that. And so like I never did feel like I had a father. Like, yeah, maybe I am out here doing fatherless behavior, but you're the one who made me fatherless. And also, who cares? If anything, I would say that fatherless behavior is behavior where I don't care about what some random old man thinks about me. Like, what is fatherless behavior but acting in a way that has like a level of reckless abandon to it? Shout out Blink 182. But what is fatherless behavior but like feeling the rain on my skin? Shout out Natasha Bedingfield. But what is fatherless behavior but genuinely going out in the world and just doing things that I want to do? You know, I'm safe, I'm smart, I'm an adult, but like what is fatherless behavior but taking certain risks because I know there's not some random old man that has a lot to say about it that's going to like try and shame me and try and put me down and try and act this way and that way because I dare to go out in the world and exist and enjoy things and soak up the beauty that is being alive. Like, what is fatherless behavior but existing in a space where I don't feel an obligation to a bunch of old people, dead people that I just happen to be related to through genetic lottery. Like my consciousness just happened to fall into this body. You just happened to be my dad, you know? Like, and I'm carrying around shit from you not showing up when I was a kid. I'm carrying around shit from my mother making everything that I wanted and needed to feel like some kind of difficult, insurmountable task. I'm carrying around shit from my sibling being the favorite and getting everything, and me being lucky enough if I get some scraps. Like I'm carrying around shit forever, and I'm putting it down slowly, Dad. It's a process. I'm unpacking it slowly. I'm taking all of my rotten stuff out of the fridge. But some stuff's kind of hard to reach. It's all the way at the back of the fridge. And I'm reaching and I'm reaching and I can barely touch it with the very tips of my fingers. But one day, I'll get there, Dad. And I'll pull that shit out. And in the meantime, what is it a big deal if I'm like, allegedly, you know, popping a pill or something, having a dance, hooking up in the toilets? How is that bad? These are things that I want to do. I'm enjoying my body and my consciousness. I'm sharing that with another person. What are we as humans but just sacks of flesh that have all these beautiful nerve endings all over us? All these erogenous zones and all these senses and abilities to connect with each other and to want and to feel and to engage and to lock in. And what is it to be alive? But to want to connect with another human being, to say, I'm alive, you're alive, let's be alive together. It's such a strange thing to act like it's some kind of insult to say fatherless behavior, because that is not something that 9 times out of 10 I've chosen. Like, yeah, you left 1,000 times and then I finally left myself. Sure, I could have kept trying with some guy who never seemed interested in knowing me as a person. If I really wanted to, I could have kept trying, but I'm not going to keep trying, Dad. I'm not going to do that. That's just not going to be me. Whoops. Whoops. So at some point, I was fatherless before you died, and now you're died, and I'm like, now you died? And now that you've died, I'm like double fatherless. Damn, double homicide. And it's like, I'm also like a grown up, and I'm also on testosterone. That's a part of things. But it's like, whatever. I was doing fatherless shit before you died. Not because I was trying to like spite you or anything, but because I felt free and unburdened by the idea that I owed some kind of weird concept of civility to someone who just happens to be my father by genetic lottery. Like, that's the thing, Dad. You were kind of father in genetics alone. Are we being honest on the podcast or not? What do you have to say about it? Nothing again. Truly, in a lot of ways, Dad, you were just my father biologically. Like, I actually think there are people that whose dad was like a sperm donor that probably have a better relationship with their dad than we had. Like, whose sperm donor father probably spent more time with them than you and I spent together. Truly. Truly. And like, you had plenty of chances. You just didn't take them. And that's on you. At some point, it's on you. And at some point, it's just for me to be like, all right, you know, like, it doesn't have to be a big deal, but also the fact that it is or was a big deal is okay. I don't need to be ashamed by the fact that, like, there's 1,000 times that you didn't show up. And I'm not trying to sit out here and be like, and then I stopped showing up and I showed him, like, it's not some victory that I've won. It's simply a reality of the situation. The victory that I've won, if there is any to win, is that way before you died, way before I kind of like cut ties with you, way before any of that, I realized that my life is mine to live. And like, if you want to be a part of it, there's a barrier that you have to overcome, which is basically just like, are you going to add to my life or are you going to feel like this thing that I have to attend to? That's what our relationship became, Dad. This thing that I had to attend to. I was like carrying around this like dead plant that I'm trying to get to grow. And I'm watering it and I'm putting it in the sun and I'm like, why isn't it growing? Because it was doomed from the start, Dad. It's the tragedy of the narrative. It's whatever. It's nothing. It's everything. It's all good. There's nothing we can do about it now. It's awful. It's amazing. It's freeing. It's horrifying. It's containing. It is what it is, you know? And like, we're getting a bit candid and we're getting a bit real. But if we're going to talk about fatherless behavior like it's an insult, then we might as well get into the fact that once I realized there was no point in trying to make you proud, and definitely in trying to make my brother proud for sure, I realized there's so many people that don't do things because they're scared of what their parents will do or think or say or feel. And that's kind of ridiculous. Like, not only in the sense of, like, I don't owe you anything because you ain't shit, but also, like, I don't owe you anything because a good parent should accept their child for whoever their child is. And yeah, maybe there's something to be said about tough love if I was, like, engaging in dangerous behavior. If I was, like, addicted to skydiving or something, maybe you need to pull me aside at some point and be like, hey, are you sure that everything's, like, safe? You know, you got adequate parachutes and stuff? Fair. Fair. To be honest, if I was addicted to pretty much anything, I think that's a point where you probably want to pull me aside and be like, hey. But, like, I'm not a weird little wind up doll to, like, perform for you. To be like, look at me, Dad. I'm doing, like, the right things that you wanted me to do, that you never vocalized because you're a bad communicator. That's not what's happening. That's not what's gonna happen, Dad. Come on. Be real. Be so for real right now. Be honest with me. Join me in reality. All right? We got to be real about it. I personally feel such a freedom when I realized, like, oh, I don't really have to care about your opinion, my mother's opinion, my siblings' opinion. You know, I'm still working on other people's. Who would have thought that I actually had to work more on strangers' opinions than the opinions of people that I shared a house with for several years? Who would have thought, Dad? It's crazy. It's crazy. You know, it's like I've transferred all of that like burden onto random people with whom I've had one bad interaction one time. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, should I end it all? Everyone hates me. We're talking about mentally ill stuff on the podcast for those just tuning in. But that's the thing. It's like maybe there is no one to answer to. And if there's no one to answer to, then I'm just going to answer to myself. If we're being real, if we're being honest, you know? And so what do I want? How can I get what I want in a way that is like safe and in a way that is communicated to other people and in a way that is taking into account general, you know, parameters of decency and respect and communication and all those kinds of things. That's how I see the world. I see the world as like there's nothing wrong with hooking up with someone in the toilet that I just met, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with getting naked on stage, which I've done many times. My body is my own. Nothing to be ashamed of. It's a human body, it's fine. Nothing wrong with spending a week because I'm sick playing Sims 2 and listening to the Fear and podcast, which I completed, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I did complete all of the Fear and podcast, which is the whole point of a podcast. The whole point of a podcast is to complete it. It's not to like feel less alone in your experiences as reflected through the experiences of other people. No. It's not even, you know, the point is to be entertained, enthralled, amused by other people kind of sharing their general banter or realness or honesty, stories, things like that. The point of a podcast, Dad, is just to finish it. That's the point, you know. And it definitely is something that I can finish. It's not like there's new episodes every week. So it's a constantly restoring resource. No, it's a constantly replenishing resource. All right. That's not the situation at all. The whole point of a podcast is to just listen to it all and then move on with my life and never think about it again. So that's what I did. That's what I did. I will say it was kind of a real moment of achievement where I was like, yeah, I did that. I did that. I feel like I've got all the lore I need to get. LORE. LORE. I've got all the information that I need to proceed. Because I was listening to it out of order, I wasn't sure if there was going to be an episode, excuse me, early on or at some random point that like gave more context to certain things. That didn't happen. There was never any context. I kind of like that though. I enjoy the Fear and podcast because it feels kind of chaotic in a good way. Um, and it feels kind of like real and honest and raw. And then there's like definitely some moments of absolute gold, which I feel like that's just I think that podcasts are a little bit like panning for gold. Where like a lot of it is just like if you enjoy the process of panning, then you're going to have a good time. And then the rest of it is like yeah, if you also want to like maybe find some little nuggets of gold in there, you might get really lucky. But I don't go into podcasts being like, where's all the gold? I don't go into podcasts being like, it has to be funny every 10 seconds or I'm gonna click off. You know, I find that really weird. Whenever I'm listening to a podcast or watching one, usually, it's really odd to me how sometimes one of the people will be like, oh, I'm sure I'm losing the audience. I'm sure everyone's clicking off. I'm sure no one wants to hear this. First of all, not to be weird, but why are you trying to like impress people that are so hard to impress? Is that me being fatherless? Is that me being fatherless and being like, oh, I already let go of trying to impress that random guy? I let go of that because why do I care about like it's strange. It's like why do I care about your opinion? I could also say like why do I care about the opinion of like the random person who's sitting next to me while we're waiting for the bus? It's like we're all just random people. Like I want to be good to people as much as I can. I don't want to like hurt their feelings or anything like that on purpose. I don't like set out to make people's day worse by any means. But also like I don't set out to try and make everyone's day either. You know? I think sometimes there's like a real tendency within me for sure, but definitely just a human tendency that different people will have, that's kind of like feeling responsible for other people's happiness. And I mean, that's obviously because I had you as a father and my mother as a mother, and neither of you were like very mature human beings or very good at communicating or really kind of aware of what you wanted to have children for. Like, what was the reason, Dad? Truly, what was the reason? You know? Like, and that's some real shit, let's be honest. Like, you and Mum were like not great parents because I don't think either of you understood what you wanted to have children for. Like, why you wanted to have children, or kind of really understood what the responsibility of having children was, you know? Like, my mother was bad at it because she saw me as some kind of weird little, probably like wind up doll, honestly. Like, she did see me as a little wind up doll. She did see me as like a thing that was like, go and perform over there for people. Go and show off how good I am of a mother. Go and tell people that I made that for you, the thing that you're wearing. Tell them I made it. What did they say about the thing that I made? You know, I want to show you off to people. I want you to be something that I can brag about. That's what I want from my child. Yikes. And then from you, it was really like, I don't think you had any concept of what it was to be a parent. Like, I don't think you had any concept of it. I wonder if you and my mother were happy at one point, like as a couple. I wonder if you were a good couple at one point. I'm not sure. But I think that you just didn't understand what you were getting yourself into, which is not to like absolve you from responsibility. You were a grown up. You were in your 30s. You were older than me, Dad. You were 36 when my sibling was born and 39 when I was born, as was my mother. You're the same age. And like, you're both adults. You were both older than I am right now. And I would hazard a guess that you were both way more immature than I am now, which is surprising. I don't understand how that happens. I don't understand how you get to like your mid 30s and you're in like a committed relationship and you're not going like, huh, but why do I want to have children? Why do I want to have children? You know? I don't know. Maybe you were one of those people that like you wanted to have children so that in 20 years you could have a friend. Yikes. Is that true, Dad? I don't know. Say more about that. Like, I can only guess because I feel like it's so hard for me to read what your motivation was for having kids. My mother, it's very clear. Like, she's clearly very self centered and someone who just wanted to be able to show off. She just wanted to be able to show off. And maybe she, at some point, was like, oh, yeah, and then I can also, like, guilt these people into taking care of me when I'm old. I don't know. I don't know. But there was definitely a real sense that she just wanted to be able to brag about like me specifically and how good I was at X, Y, and Z and how much she sewed this thing for me and she helped out with that assignment and like it all came back to her at the end of the day, right? Classic stuff. And then with you, it's just really confusing because you just weren't participating in the family at all. It's very strange, but I kind of get it in a way because like that is sort of the stereotypical archetype of a father is literally just like some guy who's like in the house. And because of the way society works being patriarchal, it's like you wanting to have alone time or whatever is never questioned. But I'm questioning it now because if you just want to be alone, why are you in a relationship? Why are you having kids? Why are you agreeing to doing all these things? Why are you seeking out, not even agreeing, why are you seeking out all these things if you just want to be alone? What's going on, Dad? You know what I mean? Because I want to be alone and I'm here in my apartment by myself. I'm not seeking out a long term relationship. I'm not seeking out kids because I don't want that. I want to be alone. And here I am being alone. I have my good friend Lou Sebiel. I have a couple of people that are like kind of work friends, acquaintances, very nice people that I'm always happy to see. You know, I get to perform, I get to connect with people through my art. Hopefully, I connect with people doing this podcast. You know, like that's all I've ever been able to do really is to connect with people over something that I made. That's the only thing I've ever really been able to do, if I'm honest. If I'm being really honest. And I'm not trying to put myself down or be self-deprecating. I'm just very aware of my pros and cons, my strengths and weaknesses as a person. I'm not a people person, really. Like, not long term. Like, when I'm feeling it, when I'm like on my like going out grind, I'm looking forward to it. It's exciting. I love going and doing a gig, talking to people after, making some new connections. It's very exciting. Like, I like that. I like doing that for sure. But I'm also like, I need that downtime too. I need that me time. And so that's what I can't understand, because we're just the same, Dad. We're just the same. And I see it now, obviously. It's very confronting to realize that I'm just you, you know? Although the boys like it. Not to brag, Dad, but the boys do like that I'm just like you. What do you have to say about it? That's what I thought. I what can I say? What can I say? Men are obsessed with me because I remind them of their dad, probably. Because you're like the most stereotypical dad to ever exist. You know what I mean? You have like a job that has a level of prestige about it. That's some dad shit. You're an immigrant. Classic dad move, being an immigrant. Classic dad move. You got to have that culture difference so that you can like claim that any of your flaws are due to your upbringing. Love to see it. Really good stuff. You had a Nokia 3310. That's classic dad stuff. You had it in a leather case that you had attached to your belt. Now that's dad stuff. That's dad stuff for real. Yeah? Autistic, classic dad move. Classic. There's so many dads that I'm meeting that I'm like, oh, so you're just autistic. Like, you're also an asshole, but you're an asshole because you're an undiagnosed autistic, and people just like let you be an asshole. No one checks you because of patriarchy. But I'm checking you right now, Dad. I'm checking you this very second because you deserve to be checked. You deserve it for real. Like, it's really something that no one ever was like, why are you an asshole? Dad, why are you an asshole? Answer on the podcast. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an asshole too, but I'm also like aware of that. I'm very aware that I have asshole tendencies. And that's what the boys like, Dad. What can I say? Also, obsession isn't necessarily good. You know, I'm out here saying the boys are obsessed with me because I remind them of their dad, because I'm just like my dad. You know what I mean? Hilarious. Very funny thing to say. Obviously, I'm very funny. Who would have thought? Me, a comedian, funny? Can't believe it. And it's very interesting in a way, because it's like obsession is not necessarily positive. And so it is funny. Sometimes I encounter a man, usually like not at work. I say work, but not at like gigs or anything that I want to be at. Like, it's usually weird like interactions, at a supermarket or something. And like, I'm very matter of fact. I'm very sticking to the facts. I'm not nice. Why would I be nice to some random old man? I don't care about him. You know what I mean? And like, I can see in their eyes, but I can also their reactions. It's it's very like I've upset them, and it's like, I don't care. You know what I mean? And they're so taken aback by this idea that I've upset them, and I also don't care. They can't believe that I am not. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness, because I'm not sorry. I don't care. You can keep waiting. I don't care. I don't exist to make life easier for you. You know what I mean? Which is exactly how a man would act, and no one would be like, "Oh, that man is rude." But because I'm not a man, the idea that I'm not constantly falling over myself to help men with every little thing that they need is like seen as incredibly rude. But also obviously hot, as we've realized. So it's an interesting situation, Dad, because sometimes, if I'm just being myself. So sometimes that is something that will either make men infuriated because they can't believe that I don't just stay in my little place and know my place. And I'm not so thankful for just existing in this world with the men. Oh, can't believe it, you know. But then also, obviously, I attract a very particular elk, don't I? We know, we know, Dad. Do you know? Okay, so we'll end this episode as we always do with a happy memory. And this episode's happy memory is one that I know is real. I do remember it very vividly now that I've racked my brain to try and remember it. But okay, so it's you and I. We're playing golf out in the backyard. And I'm trying to think of what the weather was like. I remember it being kind of chilly, and I think it was maybe a bit cloudy. But we lived in Oberon, which is like in the Blue Mountains. So to be honest, it's a very temperate climate all year round. It's a very like Northern European climate. Like a hot day in Oberon would be like 22 degrees Celsius. So it's not exactly like a hot place. So I do remember it being kind of overcast and like kind of sunny, but not scorching. And we're out in the backyard and we're playing golf to kind of no real avail. I don't really remember if we had like a hole that we were trying to putt the ball into. I feel like we were just kind of swinging the clubs around. And I remember you had these like random mix matched clubs. I don't remember if you got like gifted the clubs. You might have, because my mother's sister, her husband had like good money. Like he made good money. He was like a self-made man. He made good money. And so I wonder if perhaps he gifted you like a set of clubs, maybe even like a, I don't know, for a birthday, for Christmas. I wonder, potentially. I don't know. But I can't remember if you were gifted them or if they were like, I don't think you bought them. But you had this like set of clubs and they weren't in the best shape. They were like a little bit rusty here and there, which I kind of liked. I kind of liked that. And I would have been, goodness, maybe 9 or so. I was still pretty small, but I felt like a big kid. So I think I was like 9 or 10. And I do remember the grass being like a little bit overgrown because I kept trying to putt the ball and it would never really go very far because we're just like in the backyard, kind of putting the ball around and it's not going very far. And we had this interesting thing in the backyard where there was like this sort of veranda situation that went up to like a bit of a balcony because we had the sunken living room and then there was like a sort of a porch veranda situation that I don't think it was covered, I think it was open. But then there was like a set of stairs that went up to like a little smaller um landing, and there was a set of stairs that went down, and this is all wood. And so you went up the stairs to go up and get into like the kitchen, and then you went down. And then there was this like row of rocks that kind of circled around and like a bit of a sort of garden situation. And then there was the lawn, and there was another kind of oasis garden in the lawn that had like big eucalyptus trees. And so we're out in this backyard, and there's like a lot of land. It's like a half-acre block because we live in a small town, right? So we're out in this like backyard with this like oasis, and there's this overgrown grass, and I'm trying to like hit this ball, and I'm like little, so I don't really understand how hard to hit it and stuff. And you're trying to show me, and you're trying to teach me, and I don't want to know because I'm a kid. I'm like, I got it. And we're just like hitting this ball. I don't think we had like a hole. I think we were just kind of hitting them randomly around under this kind of like warm sky. It's not hot, but it's warm. It's like tempered. Maybe like it's like it's like temperate, maybe like 15, 17 degrees C. And we're just kind of like joking and giggling and kind of hitting these balls around, and we're getting them, bringing them back, just kind of hitting them around. We're not even playing golf. We're literally just like hitting balls with golf clubs and then going, getting the ball and bringing it back. That's all we're doing. And it's just like a nice little moment, Dad. Mm. I I really mourn the fact that we could have had so many good times and we could have had so much time just joking and laughing and giggling and being friends and messing around. And I would have done anything with you, you know? Playing golf, playing Monopoly, going fishing. I would have participated in the things that you liked. If you would have let me in. And I guess you tried to here and there, and we had some good times. They were few, but we had them. So I guess that's it for another episode of the podcast. So I guess that's bye, Dad. It's been Neptune. And Daisy says bye too.